Coming up in today's episode of The Angle Show, we're talking about Vince McMahon, what's going on with him backstage. Yes, we're talking about Tony Khan because AEW is making some changes to Rampage, sort of, kind of. And yes, we got to talk about Impact Wrestling, some big news across all three companies. It's coming up right here on The Angle Show. All right, y'all, we're going to kick things off with Impact Wrestling. Scott D'Amore has been promoted to the Impact Wrestling president. This is really cool. So he is now the president of Impact Wrestling. Anthem actually sent out a press release today. So for those who don't know, Scott D'Amore promoted to president of Impact Wrestling. Lou D'Angeli joins as vice president of marketing, and Mike Pine's talent partnerships join as strategic advisors to handling brand partnerships. Now, keep in mind, in the last few years, we've seen Impact actually do some more brand partnerships where certain episodes were presented by a certain movie that was being released. You would see it on the ring apron or on the Tron or the graphics. Really cool stuff. Obviously, Impact Wrestling is in a very interesting spot because of the fact that they are doing really well for how they conduct their business. They're just not as popular as WWE or AEW, but they're doing well with how they handle their own business, if that makes sense. So now the cool thing, especially with Scott D'Amore, is I feel like he's somewhat being rewarded for all of the good work that he's done. A lot of people enjoy Impact Wrestling. We talk about Impact. Maybe the quality needs to be a little bit better. Maybe the lighting needs to be a little bit better. Maybe some small changes like that. But when it comes to their actual shows, they've been really good. Their events on Impact Plus have been really good. And yes, even their pay-per-views have been really, really good. Booking has been really good. So a lot of people are enjoying what Impact does. There's some small things that they need to do. And hopefully with Anthem making these changes to Impact, maybe we'll see even better come from it. That's all you could really ask for. We just want to see companies improve, just like AEW, just like WWE, just like Impact, just like MLW. We want something for all of these companies, and that's something isn't too much that we're asking for. We just want to see a little bit of growth for all of them, so that way everybody has a wrestling solution based on what they enjoy. Nonetheless, congrats to Scott D'Amore as a huge supporter of Impact. I feel like this is definitely deserved. Super excited to see where they go from here. Guys, we got to talk about Vince McMahon. Dave Meltzer's talking about this, and this got me thinking because it's a very complex and complicated situation, because WWE has already come out and told us that Vince McMahon has input in the creative process, right? Triple H has mentioned this. Hey, Vince McMahon might give out some ideas. He's going to take them, and at the end of the day, Triple H is going to make those final decisions. But now Meltzer's talking about this on Wrestling Observer Radio, and now this is where things get a little too complicated, because he says he was speaking to somebody, and he talked to somebody there, and, you know, with Vince McMahon, who was there at WWE when John Cena was there, they just want you to believe that John Cena being there was the only reason why Vince McMahon was there. And he says he was, you know, Triple H was the one giving all the orders and everything like that, but Vince was there, and whatever that means in the long run, you know, we'll see. So Dave Meltzer is basically speculating that there's more to the story with Vince McMahon. I think anybody who watches WWE and knows about the inner workings of WWE based on what WWE tells you, right? When Triple H comes out publicly and says, yeah, you know, Vince McMahon might have some creative input, I think everybody kind of knew that Vince McMahon had some sort of creative input. But do I believe Vince McMahon's creative input and Triple H has the final say? I do believe that, right? So this is not necessarily a shocker to me. I don't know if this is being said for headlines or whatever it may be, but we know that WWE has publicly talked about being for sale. We know that WWE has publicly mentioned the creative process. We know all of these things. So I'm not sure why people are exactly surprised to find out that Vince McMahon was backstage on Raw. And I don't know exactly why people are freaking out, just because he was. And it's such a strange thing, because at the end of the day, WWE's business is now being ran by Vince McMahon again. He came back to the company. We knew it. I had some bold predictions. I don't think Vince McMahon, Triple H, I think the WWE is going to look very, very different later on this year. I've made some crazy predictions. Some people agree, some people don't. But my point that I'm trying to make is that WWE is going to change drastically if they are actually sold. And if WWE doesn't actually sell, then yeah, I wouldn't expect Triple H there. I would expect Vince McMahon to be there, just like it was before all of the scandals and everything went public. So ultimately with WWE, I want to say this is something that we got to pay attention to, but this is not something that is earth-shattering or something that is crazy, like shocking, to find out that there might be more to the reason that Vince McMahon is at WWE. It's not like there's nothing groundbreaking to it, and I want to leave it at that. But I'll keep you guys updated if anything changes, especially in the process of the sale. Guys, I want to talk to you about AEW and the Rampage show, because obviously a lot of people are wondering what's going on with Rampage. This is where things get interesting. AEW just announced the following. Due to network scheduling, the AEW Rampage show leading up to Double or Nothing will now air on Saturday, May 27th at 10 p.m. Eastern, or after the NBA Conference Finals on TNT. The note that the Countdown to Double or Nothing special will air right after Rampage on TNT. Terrible time slots. I'll talk about that in a second. With the new timing and subsequent production requirements, AEW Rampage will now take place immediately following AEW Dynamite from the MGM Grand Garden Arena Wednesday, May 24th. The highly anticipated Double or Nothing pay-per-view will take place on Sunday, May 28th at T-Mobile Arena. So Rampage is not going to be live that week. Rampage will be moved to being taped after Dynamite. Then it is going to air at 10 p.m. or after the conference finals, which we have learned historically it's probably going to air a little bit after that. Then AEW Road to Double or Nothing, the little special that they do every year, that's probably going to get uploaded on television after that. So we could be seeing that show after midnight, which is quite insane, honestly, when you think about it. This goes to show you that Warner Media will always prioritize the NBA, which, by the way, that's not shocking considering that NBC is trying to possibly get NBA. I read reports that NBC bringing back the NBA network and all of that onto their platforms could be in the plans. So if that is the case, if those reports are true, yeah, Warner Media is probably going to do a lot, right? Warner Media Discovery will try and do anything possible to keep the NBA happy. Plus, keep in mind, the NBA probably generates a lot more money than AEW, so it's not necessarily shocking that this would be the case. But also, I do want to point out that AEW having to tape a Rampage is really not that big of a deal. I don't think this really impacts AEW whatsoever. I don't think this hurts AEW whatsoever, and I don't expect this to actually have any sort of impact on the AEW pay-per-view. I'm not sure if AEW Road to Double or Nothing is actually responsible for generating ticket sales for the pay-per-view. I think AEW and Rampage having this change goes to show you that AEW Rampage will always be the second option. It will always be the thing where, hey, we might have to move it at a different time because we prioritize something else. And if that's the case, yeah, that's not a good look for Rampage, but ultimately, I think everybody kind of knew this going into it. Rampage is a 1-hour show. It's taped. Now, what's going to happen with AEW and their Saturday show? When will that debut? We're going to talk more about that as we get more updates. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you next time.